Between 27 and 146 BC, Rome ruled the Mediterranean. At its peak, the Roman Republic stretched from Spain to Egypt, North Africa to Greece. But despite its military prowess and vast empire, the Republic fell apart. Internal conflict eventually led to civil war, the rise of dictators, and the fall of the Republic, paving the way for the rise of the Roman Empire. The fall of the Roman Republic is one of history's most significant events. And yet it has lessons for us today, especially in these times of political division. The rival generals, Marius and Sulla, each raised their own armies to fight against one another. This set a bad example for the rest of the Republic. In 133 BC, a group of senators killed the populares leader, Tiberius Gracchus. We are constantly fighting with one another, whether it be over politics, religion, or culture. We have forgotten how to have civil discourse, and we are quick to resort to anger and violence. The fall of the Roman Republic is a warning for us today. It shows us what happens when we allow our differences to divide us. It is a reminder for us to be tolerant of other people's beliefs and to be willing to compromise. Otherwise, we may end up like the Romans, stuck in a never-ending cycle of violence and destruction. Then in 121 BC, the Optimates leader, Gaius Gracchus, was driven out of office by a group of senators. This set a bad example for the rest of the Republic. It showed that it was acceptable to use violence to achieve political goals. This culminated in the assassination of Julius Caesar. Caesar was unpopular with many in the Senate, and they feared that he would become a tyrant. So a group of senators led by Cassius and Brutus stabbed him to death. But instead of solving Rome's problems, Caesar's assassination made them worse. It led to civil war and the rise of Augustus, ending the Republic once and for all. Military leaders now saw that they could seize power for themselves by raising armies in the name of the people. Civil war became a common way to resolve political differences. This culminated in the civil war between Julius Caesar and Pompey, which resulted in the assassination of Caesar and the rise of his adopted son, Augustus. Augustus would become the first emperor of Rome, marking the end of the Republic and the beginning of the empire. Outside threats also played a role in the decline of the Republic. Rome was constantly at war with its neighbors, and the army was often deployed far from the city. This left Rome vulnerable to attack. In 146 BC, Rome was defeated by the army of Macedonia and Carthage, and the city was sacked. This humiliation led to calls for reform, which ultimately contributed to the downfall of the Republic. So here are 5 things we can learn from the fall of the Roman Republic. But as time went on, the Senate became a powerful institution that controlled the government. The members of the Senate were all male and most were from wealthy, influential families. This meant that the government was in the hands of a very small group of people. This concentration of power in the hands of a few was one of the main reasons for the fall of the Republic. When the Roman Republic was at its peak, there were about 1,800 senators. Today, the US Senate has 100 members. If you think that's not a lot, consider that the population of the Roman Empire at its peak was around 50 million people, while the population of the United States today is around 322 million people. That means that for every 100 senators in the Roman Republic, there were around 27,000 people. Today, for every 100 senators in the U.S., there are around 3,220 people. In other words, the Roman Republic was much more heavily represented in the Senate than the U.S. is today. In the early days of the Republic, Roman officials served because they wanted to contribute to the state. But as time went on, the desire for power and personal gain became the driving force for many politicians. The result was a vicious cycle of corruption and decadence. Powerful families used their influence to enrich themselves and their allies, while the common people suffered. One example of this was the Gracchi brothers, Tiberius and Gaius. They were both tribunes, or representatives of the people, but when they tried to pass land reform to help the poor, they were met with fierce opposition from the wealthy elite. Tiberius was even assassinated by a member of the ruling class. This growing divide between the rich and the poor would eventually lead to civil war, bringing an end to the Republic. 1. Inequality breeds instability. Ancient Rome wasn't a democracy, but an oligarchy where only a few hundred men from wealthy elite families had the right to vote. Most adult males were barred from voting, including the majority of the middle class. Only later in the Republic's history were some of these restrictions eased. But this inequality created deep rifts within Roman society and bred resentment among the lower classes. And as the Republic grew, so did the gap between the rich and the poor. As the Roman legions conquered more land, they brought back slaves who worked large plantations, producing food for the growing population of Rome. This created a concentration of wealth in the hands of a few, while at the same time, Rome became a hub of economic activity, attracting poor farmers and landless laborers from around the Mediterranean. This growing inequality would help spark the fall of the Republic, as we'll see in point 3. 2. Ambition and corruption. 3. Civil war and foreign threats. The downward spiral of the Republic led to civil war. 4. Power of the few. In the early days of the Republic, the Senate was a body of elders who provided advice to the magistrates or leaders of Rome. 5. Beware of political violence. Political violence was common in the late Republic, and it ultimately led to the downfall of the system. Today, our world is becoming more and more divided. Thank you for watching.